Hell yeah, it's Bo time. Hell yeah, it's time for the countdown and canned rock music.
Nothing canned about Bo Nix on Sunday, I must admit.
Woo, popping the cans, popping the tops, drinking some pops, watching Bo Nix.
Watching him run the offense efficiently.
Watching him run the offense, period.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but the moment it hit me that, okay, come what may, it's time to just rip the Band-Aid off and end this quarterback competition. Don't split the reps for another week. The moment it hit me, Cecil, was in the second quarter when they had 1st and 20. And it wasn't just that they got out of it in 2 plays, it's that they got out of it so easily.
Yes.
And Bo Nix seemed so comfortable stepping up, scrambling, picking up a quick 10 yards around a block from Cortland Sutton, and then hitting Sutton down the right flank. It just looked so methodical. Again, against the twos, but that's what you should do. A first team should dice up a second team with high efficiency, and that's what Bo Nix and the number one offense did last night.
So it's Bo time. When is Sean Payton going to announce official that it's Bo time?
I'd like to think Wednesday.
Do you think he does? I'm saying no. We all know it's Bo. We know it's Bo.
I could see him playing this game for longer.
Sure.
Even though playing the game, if you're still doing the rep splitting game, that doesn't do any favors. That's part of the reason why I say just go ahead and do this now, because then you have 3 more practices this week. You've got practices next week as you make the cuts. Just go ahead and start the process of preparing for the regular season, especially if you treat this preseason finale like you treat last year's preseason finale, which is to say you wouldn't play the starters.
Right. And I like the way Broncos country is feeling because it's genuine. Our chat room has talked about that before, Mace. It's genuine excitement for this fan base.
And it's been a while.
It's been a long while.
Because the Russell Wilson excitement and optimism, didn't it seem like it started to fade the moment training camp began in 2022? Yeah.
And certainly the Seattle game. But
yeah. Well, the Seattle game wasn't so bad. I mean, I think that Seattle game, there were a lot of other things that happened. There was more talk about the fumbles at the goal line and 46 left hash than the Seattle game. Then Russell Wilson in the Seattle game. You get to week 2, that's when it started to be more on Russell Wilson, I thought, than everything else. But even then in the preseason and training camp, remember, Wilson wasn't that great in training camp. And I think a lot of us thought, okay, well, he's a veteran. And I took the conservative approach to it. Okay, he's an 11-year vet. A lot of vets kind of take their time to kind of ramp up. Let's just see where this goes. And then turned out, bupkis. So the bloom started falling off the rose 4.5 months after the trade, I thought.
Yeah.
Now here we are. We're seeing I feel like we're just seeing the buds, and we haven't really even seen the bloom, but we're seeing some buds develop, and that's always exciting at the start of spring when you see the buds on the trees and warm weather and flowers and leaves on the trees are coming soon. That's kind of how it feels today.
Yeah. Good quarterback play coming soon for the Denver Broncos. And I put it this way on the postgame show, Mace. The less I get to talk about Russell Wilson, the better. Like, it's over. It's in the past. Look forward. You're not going that way, right? You're not. Hey, look at the Russell Wilson sucks with the Steelers.
The Russell Wilson towel is gone.
Yeah. So, let's move forward.
Although I hate to say it, I think our most traffic story of the weekend at denversports.com was about Russell Wilson getting sacked 3 times.
Yeah. A little bit of schadenfreude or whatever from the fan base, but you should be
Yeah.
excited about Bo. I'm getting a lot of texts from fans outside of Colorado, friends of mine.
Mhm.
Oh, is it real? Is it real?
Yeah.
Well, Mace, it certainly seems real. And the system is real. We know that when the system is executed properly, you can move the ball, you can get yourself out of bad situations. These are all positive signs coming from Bo Nix.
Rarely is there not going to be a good option.
Right.
Whether it is an open receiver short or taking off and running. That, I think, is a key element of this. And going back and looking at the film last year and seeing how many of those good options Russell Wilson simply chose not to take. I'm sure it infuriated Sean Payton watching it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you see he processes quickly, when he moves, he keeps his eyes upfield. And so that means he's always scanning, he's always processing, he's always watching for somebody breaking open. But like I said, sometimes that option is going to be a takeoff and run like it was on that scramble. I love that 1st and 20 scramble. That was one of my favorite plays because he just quickly went through his progressions, didn't see what he wanted, took off. And the other level of that is that you had players prepared for him to take off. Cortland Sutton immediately blocks. So there is a team element involved in this. Everyone's got to be aware of that. But that's the sort of kind of working to the next level thinking and doing so quickly on the part of the entire offense that can make this thing work and can hopefully allow this to be a pretty symbiotic relationship of coach, scheme, quarterback, and surrounding players on offense.
Well, one thing, and I like how Jason says, Bo Nix is the rookie veteran, LOL. But the thing that I like, Mace, that you highlight there is everyone's engaged. You're not taking a play off because there have been players in the past that have taken plays off because the ball's not coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
Why do that's a run play. Why do I gotta, give it up? Like, you're seeing guys engaged, always checked in, and a nice night for Tim Patrick against Green Bay. But Mace, as I wrote in DenverSports.com, his favorite target's the open guy. Sometimes that's going to be Tim Patrick for 4 catches and a half.
Yeah. Adam Troutman on 3rd down.
Yeah.
Another thing about like some of those, short options, those check down options, they're productively. These are not 2-yard check downs. These are 8 to 10-yard pickups on check downs. And those will accumulate and work to get you down the field. That's one of the exciting things watching this offense. We saw some of it on Friday as well. And I think what Bo Nix did, especially in the second half of practice Friday, because the first half of practice, when they had some early team periods, the Packers looked to be the better team. There were a couple of moments where those of us where I was standing in the media tent on Friday sort of joked, okay, this looks like the JV versus the varsity. But then that started to flip. That's why I don't say the Broncos dominated the entire practice, because the Packers were the better team for a little less than half, roughly half of the team in 7-on-7 periods of practice. And then it flipped. Number one, I like that because I like the trend of the Broncos adapting and getting better. Number two, I like that because it was Bo Nix adapting and getting better to the point where by the end of practice, in 2 minutes, marches the offense right downfield against the Packers' first team. And that's another thing. He gets better. He grows. He does it right in front of you sometimes in the course of a practice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We should have known that. You and me should have, because of the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
He wasn't good on Tuesday.
He got better Wednesday. He was
Thursday
better
was
Wednesday.
on point.
Yeah, he was better Wednesday and he was better Thursday.
Yep.
You're always looking for that upward progression, even though he didn't have the chance to get his rhythm and timing down without 7-on-7 reps.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe it's a good thing for the Broncos that week worked out as it did, because if he had gone down there and dazzled, perhaps somebody else would have taken notice and he might not have fallen to the Broncos. I mean, right now you have the general perception that, again, it's early, it's preseason. Let's not, you don't want to say too much, but the early returns are, boy, the Broncos may have gotten a little bit of a steal here with Bo Nix at number 12.
Right. I'm not going to go Colin Coward. He's the best in this class because that's a little ridiculous. But if him or Penix worked out to be the best in the class, I wouldn't be surprised. And if he was good at the Senior Bowl, then maybe someone like the Raiders, who just named Gardner Minshew their starter. Imagine being in that boat, Mace. Hey, Jarrett Stidham's the starter. Like, that's essentially what the Raiders did. And the Broncos,
Minshew's a lot better than Stidham. Come on, let's
not start blowing bubbles here. Gardner Minshew's not good. Okay, so if the Broncos were to name someone who's not good as their starter, it's essentially what the Raiders have done. And I look at it and go, well, wait a second. Now the second spot in the AFC West is open. Don't know if that means playoffs or not. I don't think it does. You and I have discussed that. But now there's opportunity here from a guy that fits.
Justin Herbert still plays in LA, right? And presumably they have a better coach and a good offensive line.
Yeah, a great offensive line.
That's why I'm going to slow. Even though the Chargers don't have the depth of skill position players that they did before, I don't know that's going to matter as much. I mean, yeah, it's the Chargers. You always expect the banana peel there. But that's why I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not going to Sharpie them and put them in second place just yet, just because the Raiders look like they're a dumpster fire.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it works out. But now it looks pretty nice. And the nice thing is, Mace, I think most people understand what they're seeing, because I haven't heard too much of it's just against the twos type of talk. Because I guarantee you this, if he would have struggled, the people that don't like the Knicks pick would have said, look at him struggling against the twos against Green Bay. Like, that didn't happen in either game. And he was better footwork wise in this game than he was against the Colts. So again, improvement.
Yes.
Learning, growing.
Getting better every day. And getting better the more that's thrown at him, which is why another reason why I should say that you should just go ahead and name him the number one quarterback right now.
Why didn't he answer D-Mac last night then?
Sean Payton, let's play that clip.
Here's Sean Payton being a little saucy.
Coach, you told Kay Adams the band still has to play a couple more times, using that metaphor, knowing it's not done yet. How's the band sounding? How are things progressing?
Listen, this is all right, putting the cap on the Bo questions right here. The band sounds pretty good. I'm not dancing. You know, listen, there are a lot of things we did well as a team. All right, I'm not announcing a starter. And I told you I'll get with you when we do.
He's not dancing. Is that good or bad? Because if the band is good, shouldn't you be dancing?
Yeah, but it's also preseason, and this is a guy who's been a head coach in the NFL for, this is his 17th year as a head coach. That doesn't lend itself to dancing over preseason outcomes. Promising as they may be for the potential long-term impact, because you may well have found your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, I think you don't necessarily want to gush about a player that you're trying to get more out of. And I think some of that is pushing Bo Nix. Okay, let's see. And I think also legitimately he wants to watch the film and see what else was there before he makes a proclamation. But it's getting to be one of those things where everybody on the team knows the score. Let's play a comment from PJ Locke here, talking about Bo Nix, not only last night, but what he's seen from him throughout training camp.
Man, it's just he's super efficient, man. I think he's like a very seasoned rookie. I mean, just the way he marches down the field, the way he carries himself, the confidence he has confidence in his arm. He's able to read the defense and make the correct reads, and man, he just continues to get better every week. And our job is to challenge him in practice, and man, he's stepping up big time.
Our job is to challenge him in practice, and he's stepping up big time.
Mm-hmm.
As PJ Locke says.
Mm-hmm. The players know.
They know. They get it.
That's why I
Ball
wonder
knows
why
ball.
Sean Payton's going to delay this thing. Because tomorrow, and we'll have practice, and we won't be able to say anything unless Coach talks about it.
Well, I think practice is until Wednesday. I don't think.
Wednesday. Sorry, Mace. I don't know what day it is.
That's okay.
So we're gonna have practice this week. We won't be able to say anything unless Coach says something. I'm sure he'll say quite a bit, but I still think he won't say it. But players know. Last week, Tim
they
Patrick,
knew in the locker room. We did a show about this.
Right.
What the players were saying. They know. They know where this is headed.
Yes, and they see it as well, Mace, because they know where it's headed since he was drafted in the first round, but they're also seeing the results they need, which I think is comforting for them, and hopefully it helps accelerate Sean Payton. I don't want to see Jarrett Stidham get any first-team reps this week. I don't want to see it.
How will you feel if you do? Because we're out there for the practices. It's one of those, just to kind of clarify, training camp in terms of a fan event ended last Friday.
Right.
Training camp in terms of practice structure goes on for another week. This week through the preseason finale. And then the next time we see the Broncos, they're going to be in the process of making cuts after that. So fundamentally, you've got 3 more days here. And I don't know that you're forget about just Bo Nix. If you know Bo Nix is the guy, are you doing the team any favors by splitting the first unit reps this week? Because the page is turning and your focus is starting to go on the Seahawks in week 1.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you can get a little head start on it now.
Yeah.
Because you're not preparing for the Cardinals game. The Cardinals game is just for a few spots at the end. I'm sure you could do the 53 right now, Mace. Be fairly accurate.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do that tomorrow.
I could be tomorrow, like a Tuesday show, projecting the 53. But that means advance the preparation time for both. Seattle's a tough place to play.
Mm-hmm.
So advance the preparation. You asked me how I'd feel if Stidham gets ones. It's just a waste of time. Like, I don't have the calories to burn to be like, I'm outraged. No, it's a waste of we're wasting your time. If it's not Bo Nix, you're wasting your time.
Okay. In that vein, let's play the clip from Bill Belichick on the Pat McAfee show today. Belichick basically makes the argument for why you would start Jarrett Stidham rather than Bo Nix right away. Here's what Belichick had to say.
Well, I think you go with him when you feel like he's ready to go. What you don't want to do is you don't want to put a rookie quarterback in there. Like, let's, for example, here, what I don't think you want to do is put Bo in there and then after 3 or 4 games, find out you need to take him out and put Stid back in there and go that way. I don't think that would work. I think that just creates a lot of confusion, and I really don't think that's what you want to do. If you're sure Bo Nix is the guy, then you go with him, but you don't turn back. You stay with him all the way through. If you go the other way and start with Stid, who's actually played, I think, pretty well in the preseason. He showed some toughness scoring last week and had an interception when the ball got batted at the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, overall, I thought he's done a decent job. If you feel like he gives your team a better chance to win and you want to give, the younger player a little more chance and you don't think he's quite ready yet, then when you make that move, you're going to make it, whether it's to start the season, week 3, week 6, week 8 at the bye week, whatever it is. Once you make that move, then I think you're committed to it all the way. You don't want to change it at that point.
Couple of things there. First of all, the argument he's making there is partially about Bo Nix's long-term development, which, okay, that is logical. That is the concern. I mean, this season's all about developing Bo Nix one way or the other. And aside from a miracle run, this season's success or failure is determined by how far Bo Nix develops, how much he grows over the course of this year.
Yep.
But the argument that he's putting forth is basically that, well, if you go with Bo Nix, there's no going back. But if you go with Jarrett Stidham, you can make the move. I know we've talked about this, that if you start Stidham, then you have that button you can mash if the team stalls to put Bo Nix in. But if you start Bo Nix, that's it. You can't pull him. And I get that, but at the same time, which quarterback gives you the better chance to win here? Because it's actually an interesting thing. I think Bo Nix gives the team a better chance to win right now.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, you can't go back. Well, fine. There should be no going back. This ought to be Bo Nix's year to develop, play the entire season, knock on wood that he stays healthy, and then let it play out as it will, and you see where it is at the end of the year. Sort of like Drew Lock in 2020. He's the starter, come what may. The only times he didn't start was because of injuries and then the COVID week. And then at the end of the year, you assess and you see where he is and where you want to go. This is the Bo Nix year. Why wait?
Yeah. And how does Sean Payton coach? Does he coach scared? Does he coach like, well, if we put in Stidham, then we can wait? And like, no, if Bo's ready, and we've seen it back to our conversation about him getting better.
Yeah.
Mace, you and I talked about it, and this is where new information comes in. At the beginning of training camp and for the first week or maybe more, Stidham was the better quarterback.
Yes, he was.
That hasn't been the case for the last week or so.
Mm-hmm. And that matters. Stidham was the better quarterback early. Bo Nix has passed him.
Mm-hmm.
Which then leads you to this other question you must ask, which is, how much better does Bo Nix get the more he plays? You're projecting. If you played Stidham or you played Nix for 4 games, which one is the better quarterback after those 4 games? And also, I'd say with Nix, the other thing is he's going to have some bumps. He's going to have learning experiences. Why not get to them sooner rather than later?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Get to your lesson sooner.
It's a pretty easy call from me.
Mm-hmm. Seems like Cortland Sutton had some things to say about Nix and eventual struggles. Here's what Sutton said last night.
I think that, he has a really good head on his shoulders. He understands that comes with the territory, and he's gonna go out there and make sure that he's in the right place mentally, physically, and emotionally to be able to go out there and put the best thing forward for us and the team. And it's just I think that like I was saying before, it's a roller coaster for rookies, especially for rookie quarterbacks, and I think that he's going to do a really good job of handling it, and he has good guys around us. Some of the older guys in our room and some of the older guys on our side of the ball are going to make sure that he doesn't, when we do hit those that stumble, that he doesn't look at it as a fall, and that he picks himself back up, and we help pick him up and dust it off and move on to the next one.
They're there to help.
They're there to help. I mean, and I'm glad he said that. And I mentioned earlier when Bo takes off and Court quickly blocks. I mean, this is going to be a collective. Even though Bo Nix is the alpha playing the quarterback position, it's going to be everybody picking him up a little bit. But it's also going to be Bo Nix picking everybody else up, because if he does what he has shown the last couple of games and what he's shown more and more in practice, he's going to be setting up his teammates for opportunities after the catch, opportunities to turn short gains into long ones.
Yes.
He's going to put them in the best position.
And I love that he's going to feed all of them. Like it wasn't Sutton's night last night, and Sutton couldn't be happier. You're in that locker room, Mace. Those guys seem happy.
Well, it wasn't his night, but I mean, they only played 2 possessions and he had a 23-yard catch. So who's to say that if Nix had had played the whole game, he might have ended up with 100 yards. I mean, it's just a small sample size, right? But there are going to be games where some nights Cortland Sutton gets 10 passes and then sometimes he's targeted 3 times, right? It's more to Josh Reynolds. It's more to Tim Patrick. I'm actually, honestly, I've actually been a little bit disappointing Josh Reynolds the last couple of games. He's looked good in practice. It hasn't yet translated. It's translating with Cortland Sutton. It's translating with Tim Patrick.
Sure.
And we didn't see Marvin Mims Jr. last night either. He didn't play, though. Like, he didn't play.
Yeah, that's interesting times out there. The Mims Franklin conversation is one that we'll get to certainly on this show. Yeah. But as we've highlighted, Bo Nix's favorite guy is the open guy.
Yes.
So whoever's getting open, and that goes back to everyone being engaged. In this system where there's always going to be an option, if you're engaged, you're going to work hard to get open, to do your job, and you can be rewarded because you have a quarterback that's going to find you. You get open, Bo's going to find you.
Oh, correction. Mims played 12 snaps. My bad.
Yeah, he didn't play much.
Yeah, he didn't play much. So I didn't notice him out there. And what was interesting also is that Marvin Mims played 12 snaps and they ain't use him on returns.
It is interesting.
Now I wonder if that might be protecting him a little bit.
It could be. I mean, he's good to go, Pro Bowl returner. So that could be. It's just wanted to see him take that next step as a receiver. I'll have to wait till next year because it hasn't happened yet this year.
Yes, has not happened yet. And we didn't see Devon Vele last night either.
Yeah. A little banged up. Protect him.
Another thing that Sean Payton doesn't want to talk about. He's definitely he's definitely gear shifting towards regular season mode here. Compared to off-season freewheeling, footloose and fancy free, barefoot through the grass. Not really, but by comparison.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fun to be here with Bo Nix and then to set the proper expectations, Mace. Like, learn. My expectations for Bo Nix this season, I'm not going to say playoffs. I have him at 9 wins. People think I'm crazy. Like, I say you'll be around that conversation, but you'll be better for it next year. 2025 is what matters, and the more Bo plays now, the better he'll be then. If he gets a whole season, how good is Bo Nix at the end of this year? If he continues to improve.
If he continues to improve, then by the end of the season, you have games where he is the reason why the team wins. And I don't just mean, he hit the open receiver. I mean, he does something beyond play structure. He does something creative, improvisationally. That's another thing. Like his ability to take off and get a quick 10 to 15 yards is high level. And that's going to alter what defenses can do in coverage. They're going to have to account for that. And their counter move is going to be at times maybe having a spy on Bo Nix. Well, that's well and good, but that spy means one fewer player in coverage, and he's going to have more opportunities to find the open man. It's I don't want to say playoffs either. I mean, everyone there's a lot of basking today because there haven't been many days after games that have felt good.
Yes.
And not just good for the moment, but good like, okay, this can really be something big long term. Haven't had that. I mean, shoot, we had some games last year where they won, and was that really a good win? Is that really what you wanted?
We might have to do some in-season what-ifs. But
yeah.
Is that really okay, Mace? I'm going to ask you this then. Does Bo Nix and the genuine optimism change your record at all? Somebody asked me that last night in the post game. I was like, I have him at 9. I'm not going to go off a 9. I'm not going to say 10 or 11. Or I'm not going to say 8. Although 7 to 9 is the possibility. If Bo Nix improves, we always say November's going to be tough, right? November, oh my God, at Baltimore, at Kansas City, Atlanta, and then at the Raiders. What if November is less tough because Nix has gotten better in 2 months?
It's possible, but I'm not prepared to change my win total today.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at what teams are going to do to counter him and how quickly will Bo Nix, Sean Payton, and the coaches counter move that. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks look good in their first start or two in the regular season. And then there's the adjustment, and how do you counter those adjustments? So that's why I'm not going to move off 7 right now. And also, I was more encouraged by the defense Friday. I'm not really putting much stock in last night. What we saw defensively, I mean, I think that there were some good things, but Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt were not that much of a challenge.
No.
And everything flowed from there. So I'm not, and I think the Packers may have some depth issues on offense that they don't have on defense. And that's another reason why I'm not going to judge what the Broncos offense and defense did equally here, because you're going up against 2 different units. I think depth-wise are in 2 different places for the Green Bay Packers. So I'm encouraged by what we saw Friday defensively. I'm encouraged by the plays on the ball. That being said, the Broncos are getting things done with an extra pass rusher. We're seeing blitz looks. That's well and good, but the counter to the blitz is pretty easy. And so I do worry that this defense may get too blitz happy. Aggressive, yes, is good, but you don't want to be too reliant upon the blitz, because there's a very easy counter to that good teams with good quarterbacks can pretty quickly overcome. So that's why I'm still on 7 wins. Yeah, I'm going to be the grouch here. I don't care.
Nah, it's not the grouch. Get home with 4, because I'm concerned about the safeties. I'm concerned about the secondary not named Pat Surtain. That includes Riley Moss, who looks like the starter right now.
Moss looked good on Friday. So although there was a DPI, but he's playing with some fire out there, and he's playing with confidence that isn't being affected when something goes wrong. And I think that's a huge sign for him. That it's, he has a DPI or he gets beat, and it's not getting him up in his headspace. So that's encouraging. With safety, we haven't seen Brandon Jones yet. Is it fair to be concerned about depth? Yes. And in fact, but it was interesting. I was talking with PJ Locke a little about Devin Key, and of course, Key had that penalty. In PJ's eyes, that penalty's okay because it's a penalty out of aggression. And that was really interesting, because I think that is a mindset throughout the defense, that if they're going to make the mistakes, they want them being made with forcefulness, and that they'll take a penalty here and there if it's a penalty out of aggression, not a pre-snap penalty, not a mental lapse penalty.
Mm-hmm.
But you can only get away with so much of that. So you got to be careful. That's a tricky line you're going to have to walk there.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a really interesting that was an interesting perspective that he had, and it got me thinking about what's been said and what's been shown about the aggression of this defense. Like, to their credit, they're going to try to take it to an opponent, and I think it'll work against a fair amount of teams, but it's not going to work against every team. So it does go back to getting home with 4. Can this team get home with 4 in the pass rush? I still have questions about that.
Yeah. I don't have questions about Nick Benito and Jonah Ellis. They look good. They look good.
Jonah
together last
Ellis
night.
looked great last night. Jonah. It's almost worth asking if Jonah is moving past Nick Benito for that number 3 role there. But I think more accurate to say that you may have a pretty robust 4-player rotation, 4-player, 2-unit platoon up there. Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper still being the first team, and then Benito and Ellis working together, especially maybe more on third downs, that being their role. But that was an encouraging performance from Jonah Ellis and showing off a lot of moves. But that's what we talked about with Jonah Ellis back in April and May. How many moves, how he stacks moves. I mean, he was more conservative about how many moves he had than you were. You were talking about 6, and he said, and he was very modest and said he had 3.
Right. No, he's got more than that. And Mason, is he a gamer?
Yeah.
Because in practice and early on, again, new information, but early on in practice, like, man, Jonah's not doing anything.
First week, but middle of the second week, he started to flash more. And he's been coming on now. So now you feel good about the quality. Like I said, it's still that, like that pitching rotation where you've got a good number 2, a third pitcher who's like a number 2, but your ace is like a number 2. Like you still don't have the alpha right now. The question is, can an alpha emerge from this group? I think long term, if I had to bet on an alpha, it would be Jonah Ellis. Long term, maybe not this year. But
well, you know what that says?
There are some signs.
It says you don't have to pay Baron Browning. Regardless of him having 10 sacks or 9 sacks, I'm not going to get crazy in like 15 sacks. Like Browning can be good this year, and we wish him well. If Jonah Ellis does this, that's why you draft him.
If I were to say which of Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper is more likely to sign an extension, I'd go with Cooper.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because right now, we'll see. But Baron Browning has all the tools, but for whatever reason, it doesn't always come together. It's possible that Baron Browning is not the best pass rusher in that group, pure pass rusher. It could be Benito. It might be Jonah Ellis by the end of this year. What I do know is Jonathan Cooper's the best run defender in that group.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best, he's the best at the point of attack when it's coming at him.
He keeps contained. He keeps the play inside of him. He holds his ground.
He sets, and he not only sets everybody up, but when the opportunity is there, as we saw last year, he can make a play too.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in the pass rush, when you have stronger pure pass rushers with Zach Allen, with Benito, with Ellis and Baron Browning, then playing on the opposite side means, okay, are you good enough to take advantage when it drifts toward you? And he did that. By the way, another play I love last night in the pass rush was when what was the sack, and you had basically John Franklin Myers, his pressure sets up Zach Allen. Like that's what you've been missing. Like Zach Allen as an interior pass rusher was kind of operating on his own last year. You traded for John Franklin Myers to get him some help. Help has arrived.
I like that.
Yeah.
The help is here. Speaking of help, Mace.
Nice.
Yes.
I see what you did there.
Yes. We need your help on YouTube. How can they do that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss vid. Perfection. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on Twitter, X, and all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying, hey, this quarterback competition, it's over. It's over.
Should be over.
Yes. And I don't want to quote Will Ferrell in this, but I still love the scene. Let the boy watch. Nope. Let the boy play. How about that? Let him play.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Let him do his thing.
We'll do our thing coming up tomorrow, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, East Mesa. I'm Cecil, OBT's BFD. Stay tuned. Stay frosty.